Well, hello everyone. How are you? I am trying to make sure I am all queued up and that everyone who needs to see this can see this. Just 1 second. And I am all righty. That's one. And just 1 second, everyone. I am coming. Terry, if you can hear me, log into your Dr. Terry on Facebook. And all right, everyone. All right, everyone. How's everyone tonight? Hey, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. Hey, I'm here. You're here. We're here. So I am so excited that you are here. Again, I welcome you. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Dr. Educational Moments with Dr. Naita. That's me. And I tell you, I have a very special guest with us tonight. Oh my goodness. She is phenomenal. She is all that and a bag of chips. And I am so excited that she is here with us. So tonight, I want you to welcome with me, yay, none other than a beautiful woman, a beautiful spirit, and her name is Dr. Terri Major-Kincade. So come on in here, Terri.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. So how's everything going?
Things are going well. I'm off today, so that's a good day for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Terri, I am so glad you're here. And we're going to definitely talk about some things tonight that impact our heart from a mother standpoint, from an educator standpoint, and then, of course, from your standpoint as a healthcare provider. So our topic tonight is COVID-19, young adults, and college life. Okay. COVID-19, young adults, and college life. So, Terri, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Just introduce yourself to everyone.
Yes, thanks so much for having me, Dr. Naida. I'm so excited to be here. So, hey, everybody, I'm Dr. Terri Major-Kincade. Most people call me Dr. Terri. I am a board certified neonatologist and pediatrician based in Dallas, Texas. I've been in practice for the past 20 years, where I like to say I specialize in giving families the gift of hope. So I take care of premature babies or term babies that are sick. I also see them when they leave in a follow-up clinic. And I also do a lot of teaching nationally around perinatal health disparities, systemic racism. So those are things that are very near and dear to my heart. I have two college-age kids. So
Yes, you
one in
do.
grad school and one a second year in college. So I certainly understand as a pediatrician and a mom how hard this is. And I'm so glad I'm not in college right now because whew,
I know. I couldn't even
it
imagine.
would be hard.
Couldn't even imagine.
It would be hard.
Well, tonight, Terri, what we're going to talk about, we're going to speak from an academia standpoint, we're going to speak from healthcare provider standpoint, and most importantly, we're going to speak as mamas and aunties. Mamas and aunties. So for those of you who do not know my relationship with Miss Terri, but Terri happens to be married to my brother, Stephen. So that's how we are connected at the hip, connected for life. She is my sister in love. And we have had some fun times together through the years. And I was recently thinking about that time that we were in Orlando and playing charades.
I was just telling Stephen we need to go back.
Yes, and we were doing charades, and I was doing, my card was to act out, stop, drop, and roll. I mean, come on. I stopped. I fell on the floor and I rolled. Your brother, my brother, your husband, he said, praise dancing.
I can't believe you still remember that.
I was like, what is wrong with you? But anyway, with that, let's jump right into the discussion. So tell me this. before we really jump into, young people in college life, when you hear dismissive responses regarding the pandemic, regarding the severity of COVID-19, how do you respond? What is your initial response? Because you hear so many dismissive comments. I hear people say that, oh, it's not really that many deaths when you take out the pre-existing conditions. But had there been COVID, then the people who were managing their pre-existing condition, they'd still potentially be alive. So how do you handle that? How do you respond to that?
So, I used to get really angry when the pandemic first started, when I heard comments like that, because, I was in the thick of it. I'm in the hospital. I'm having to wear PPE, looking like an astronaut. I've had one mother die from COVID, whose baby survived. So, I'm in the hospital every day where I pass a COVID floor. Well, people are not surviving, where people are being brought in on respirators and not surviving. I have colleagues who were in New York when the pandemic first hit really hard, who were, in the ER seeing these, bodies being carried out and loaded into trucks because the morgues were full. So this is not a joke. So initially, when I first heard it, I would get really angry because I felt like, people need to understand this is real. But as we've gone through the pandemic, I can understand why some people are having a hard time believing it's real because they haven't been affected.
That's right. That part.
They don't see people with symptoms. It's not like the flu or something else if they saw somebody sick. So I think now when I hear people say things like that, I just say a prayer, send some grace their way, and I hope that they don't have to know someone directly because I'm praying for people directly every day. The second thing I would say, in fairness to people about the pandemic, is what we know now, we did not know in February. What we know now, we didn't know in April. What we know now, we didn't even know in June. Right. So, we're learning stuff every day. We now know that you can be affected even if you don't have a pre-existing condition. We now know that pregnancy was added as a pre-existing condition. Wow. We now know that children have a whole new disease process that has presented with COVID that we didn't know about before, starting with skin lesions and a special skin rash and other organs being involved, not necessarily a cold or even a fever. Wow. I myself had a COVID exposure and was sick. My testing was negative, but my chest X-ray was positive. So we now know that the strain is changing. We now know that the time that you do the test can affect that. And we now know that we thought you couldn't be reinfected, but supposedly now they have the first reinfection. So, so I understand the misinformation. And of course, from the top, I don't want to get political. We have conflicting information coming from administration. We have conflicting information coming from the CDC. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Crowds of 10 or more, not crowds of 10 or more. So I understand why people are confused. But let me tell you guys, it's not a joke. Every day I go into the hospital hoping that I will not have to say bye to a family member. And every day I leave the hospital hoping that I don't expose my family to anybody that I've had to take care of, even though I'm wearing PPE. So it's real, but I do understand when you have conflicting information, it's hard. When the symptoms change, monthly, it's hard. And those of us who are pediatricians, we're very concerned because we're realizing we just didn't know enough about kids in the beginning. Right. So pre-existing conditions have been added from the beginning. So I used to get really angry, but now I understand, people, if you haven't been affected, if you've been in your bubble and you think it's overkill, then I understand why some people might feel that way. Yeah. I wish it was overkill.
I wish. Yes, I agree.
I'm concerned, but
I agree. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. So as we kind of shift our conversation and we're talking about college campuses, I want to just share my screen for a second, because when we checked in this year for school as a junior, this year we could not leave. We could not leave without having, masks. So she has her mask on a
Yeah.
little hook by the door so
Yes.
that she remembers she has different colors and, you know, different designs and what have you. In addition to that, we have a COVID kit. And in that COVID kit, I have, you know, just various medicines from Tylenol to Mucinex to a little extra cash and just different things that do not touch if you're not positive. Do not touch it. You know, don't pinch off of that money. Oh, here's a 20 real quick and run to Chick-fil-A. You know, that's not what this is for. And then just check-in was just completely different. You drive in up, you know, with your cars, don't get out, sign here. You know, it was just the move in was completely different. In addition to that, when I look across the nation, you know, at colleges and universities, there were just significant budget cuts. I know at the college I work at alone, we've lost $5 million, you know, and that's significant, you know. In addition to that, then there are increased costs. Yeah, there are some, you know, some savings being that we didn't have to run as much electricity and things like that. But then when you look at the cost that we're having to do for extra cleaning and, you know, cleaning supplies and stuff. In addition to that, there were another 50,000 layoffs of faculty and staff across the nation. And most importantly, the New York Times reported last week that of the 750 colleges and universities that responded to their survey, there were over 26,000 COVID cases with 63 deaths. Lastly, 48% of college students experience financial setback due to COVID. And I know, you know, for a lot of students, that summer income, it just was not there for them this year. So COVID has had a major, major impact on a lot of things this year. So when you look, I'm getting ready to take this, stop sharing that. When you look at college campuses and, you know, coming from, you know, your tri-lens, you know, academia, because you teach, you know, from, you know, the healthcare perspective, and then from the mama auntie perspective, when you look across college campuses, what are your biggest concerns?
I have several concerns. The first thing I want to say to the audience is when they first began talking about schools opening, colleges as well as high schools and elementary, I was invited to a number of panels with other pediatricians to talk about how to safely open. And I would say to the parents, I even said it to one of my nurses yesterday because she said, I'm one of the horrible parents that send my kid back to school. And I don't think who sent their kid to school should feel like they're a horrible parent.
Yeah.
If you kept your child at home, that was the right decision. If you packed your COVID kit and you talked to your kid and you sent them, that was the right decision. I think that to everybody listening, whatever your family situation is, I believe you made the best decision for your family. And so I attended a number of panels where people wanted a yes or no. And unfortunately, there is no yes or no. So I will say, as a pediatrician, I had two big concerns for the college opening that was very different for elementary and high school. One, we weren't doing enough testing of the lay public prior to schools opening. So most colleges did open with very aggressive testing. Many colleges are actually testing students twice a week. They have the saliva-based test. It's not the painful nose test. So we're getting a lot more testing on the college campuses than we're actually getting in the general population.
Okay, very good.
I checked the numbers today for the college case, actually doubled from last week. So now over 50,000 cases being reported from 1,000 colleges, especially those who participated in NCAA. So doubled in just a week. So my first concern was, will we have enough testing? Well, most of the colleges are doing a lot of testing. My second concern is they had a lot of things in place for social distancing, which was so funny to me because before the colleges opened, like we had grown-ups going out July 4th. We saw the beaches in your home state. We saw the beaches in Florida for July 4th.
Yes.
I worked 2 weeks of the month in Vegas. Vegas opened July 4th. I flew into work that week. My plane was full of people excited that the casinos were opening up. So
wow.
If we, the mature adults,
that part,
mature adults who have our brains are mature, we're not still quote unquote maturing. If we're congregating, celebrating for the 4th, going to weddings, hanging out on the beach, getting ready for Labor Day, I mean, why? I was confused as to why we would think a group of college students would get on campus after being trapped, and I do mean trapped, with their parents. From
that part, yeah.
why would we? I mean, I expected college students to have some due diligence, wear their masks, but I don't necessarily expect college students not to congregate at all. Part of the experience of living on campus and going away to college and being on campus, part of their developmental experience is being able to congregate. So I personally felt like it was asking college students a lot to be able to say, you're going to go, you're not going to congregate, you're going to be, only in groups of 10, you're going to wear your mask, you're going to stay in your room unless you have to actually go to class for a lesson. Because we, the adults, weren't doing that. We, the adults, were not doing that. So my biggest concern was how effective the social distancing was going to be and how soon we were going to see it was not effective. So what was most impressive to me is that with all the testing, we were able to see pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly.
I mean, many colleges within 2 weeks of opening.
Right.
Of course, you had people congregating, having the COVID parties. You had people, doing their beer parties and their Greek organizations, but you also had people just congregating to be congregating. So I think I'm not surprised that we're in this situation. My bigger concern at this point is that you probably saw today, several schools are deciding to close, go back to online, and to send students back home. So my biggest concern is now we've had these students here, they're exposed.
And now they're going back
on campus. You want to send them back home to the parents or the grandparents or the aunts or uncles who really may be compromised and may be at a bigger risk. So, it's a mess. And I don't necessarily think, I think it's great that colleges increase testing, because that was our biggest concern as healthcare providers. But with the testing and the contact tracing, we're able to see, yes, they're not able to congregate as much as we had hoped. But I mean, suspending hundreds and hundreds of students, I don't necessarily know if that's the answer, because you're not even going to get all the students. And then some of the students, you're requiring them to have an honor system and tell on their roommate. Right. They went to I mean, I just think it's not very realistic. So I'm very concerned about students coming back home who are in places with that. I'm very concerned about the southern states in particular, where they're the highest, where we don't have the testing in the general population, but we have the testing for the students. And I'm concerned about the increased number of deaths that have been associated, with students who've been back on campus. So, and I don't know what all the right answers are, but I do think that one of the things that colleges did right was they increased testing. But now that we have
the numbers, what are
we going to do about it? What was our
now what?
If we suspend the whole school, I mean, I don't know. So that's my biggest concern. So, but I don't necessarily think students are being, you have some students that are being selfish, but I don't think that most of the students are quote unquote selfish. Just like I didn't think the people who went to the beach were quote unquote selfish, But I think it's a very delicate balance to walk. And I don't think developmentally it was a realistic expectation for college students to consistently do that, or for the security on the campuses to be able to consistently enforce it. Because what about the off-campus parties?
That part.
You have apartments. You don't even know what's going on over there.
That part. Yeah, that part. Yes.
I saw a story today. Somebody had figured out how to trick the campus app so that the app, I guess they had a campus app where you could track the
right. I have mine.
Somebody had figured out how to override the campus app so you wouldn't know who was positive. I'm like, okay, that's not.
Well, I know
they need to be suspended for that. So anyway, as a healthcare provider, I worry a lot about kids coming back home. And as a healthcare provider, I worry about what the input is for. What is your contingency plan if you have double number of cases? And I don't think that was, I think people thought we'll test, they'll quarantine, if they're positive, we'll keep them in the dorm for 2 weeks and then they can come back out. But I don't think that we had a plan for it's doubling, it's tripling. I don't think that. And I also saw, this is interesting, being a physician, since my daughter's in vet school, I saw that a lot of the cases, for example, in Alabama, in cases where they have medical schools, a lot of those cases are because those students are caring for patients that are positive in the hospital, but they're graduate students, and so they're still with other students who are not around those patients in the hospital. So they've been able to do
Oh,
some
okay.
contact tracing showing that students who are in fields where they're involving taking care of patients in the hospital are also the source of outbreak for other students in the main campus. So, I
It's
mean, what do
just,
you know about that? Because we've got to
it's
see
just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. It seemed like it's just never ending. And then I
and
thought
I know,
that,
and I think we're just in the
yeah,
beginning. I mean, Dr. Fauci was saying today that for Labor Day, we're going to have another surge.
of
People
course.
stay
Yeah.
home, but I
But
mean,
is
people
that
are not
realistic?
staying home.
Yeah. People are not staying home. And, I even look at, my child's behavior. She lives off campus and, but people still want to come over. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
people
are
don't
you
think-
doing their temperature checks at the door?
My
And I
daughter,
know they're not. I know they're not,
she has a one
And,
study partner, and somebody else wanted to come over, and they were like, "Nah, you can't come.
oh, wow.
We got to just stay in our,
Yeah, well, that's good. At least she was responsive to mine. I checked on her earlier today because she was like taking her braids out and she was running out of time. So she had everybody in her
Oh,
head.
helping her."
But everybody, I'm like, wear your mask. Wear your mask.
And that's a normal college bonding activity.
It
Everybody coming over to
is,
the room, helping you with your hair.
and it just,
And my daughter says she only wears her mask outside. She doesn't wear her mask, when she's with her study group. But I'm like, you need to wear it all the time. But it's
and
not.
that's when you're close together. So
That's my thing. I'm like, when you're in close proximity, you need to have the mask and the shield. That's my bias. Like I told my daughter today, I'm mailing out some shields because y'all are too close to be.
wow. Wow. Yeah, maybe I need to send her some shields too. So send
Yeah,
me some
some shields. I sent her some. I got a discount out there in packs of 10, the ones with the glasses in them. So they're very
Oh my goodness.
easy. I mean, because I don't think the masks are enough because the kids are too close.
Right. Right. Oh my goodness.
The different way the schools, like a couple of my friends, when their kids were moving on campus, they took pictures of, because many of my friends, their kids graduated this year. So first year on campus, exciting.
Okay.
Pictures of the dorm rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Some dorms had really taken the precautions to people could have single rooms, but everybody can't do that. And other dorms, they just had basically a sheet of plastic hanging down from the ceiling in between
Between the oh my
the two twin beds,
yes.
for whoever those roommates were going to be. And so we were like looking at pictures like, okay, you probably need to find somewhere else for your child to stay,
Oh
like
my,
literally just as a
yeah,
barrier.
yeah, it's very, yeah, yeah. You stay on your side, I stay on my side. Yeah.
Exactly. You stay on your side,
Oh
I'm
my,
stay on mine. We have some Lysol. So, I mean, all separation is not equal. All social distancing in the dorm is not equal. And I
wow.
think, like you said, a lot of schools were struggling with resources. My daughter's alma mater is UMass. I saw they were furloughing 70,000 employees. They're gonna have to go back to online. I mean, these are tough. But I don't think we thought a lot about what was going to happen when we got the numbers. We thought a lot about testing, and we
Mm-hmm.
thought a lot about
Getting the numbers, but not what do we do once we have the numbers.
right. And it looks like I guess a third of the schools open, but majority of the schools all have cases. In the southern states, the cases are doubling. So
Wow. So, what advice would you give to parents who are trying to encourage their students to take a healthier lifestyle, a healthier approach to this college experience so that they can at least stay in school longer?
right. So I guess if your child is at a school that is staying open, I think that's great. Many of the schools are not, but if you have a campus that's staying open, but is moving to more of a hybrid virtual, or in class for some, but virtual for the rest, I would just we need to remind our students that social distancing, even in the dorm, is still important. Of course, they need to wear the mask, even if they're studying. If they're going to be that close, and I think they need to wear shields too, because the kids just aren't When
They're
they're
not staying far enough away.
they're wearing the mask when they're walking on campus, but when they're right on top of each other, they're not in class, etc. So I would remind them that the social distancing is important. If you don't, like my daughter, as a second year, had the choice for on campus or home. And it was easy for her decision to make. It was an easy decision for her. She's like, I'm staying in the apartment because I don't have time for this. So,
right. Yeah. Her cousin did that same move.
Exactly. I mean, if you have the choice, even though you want to be able to see your classmates and stuff, if it's not a lab or direct care, it's not going to directly impact your learning. Go ahead and just do the online learning in the dorm room if your school is staying open. Like if your school is staying open and you can stay in the dorm or in your apartment, just do that and just be very selective about your on-campus experiences or group experiences, especially if you're somewhere where they're testing twice a week or once a week. So I also try to remind the kids, it's not just the mask and the shield, it's the doorknobs. I don't know if it's in your COVID kit, but a lot of the campuses sold these, they were these little gadgets where you don't have to directly touch the doorknob. It turns the door for you. I think all the kids should have that, especially if they're in the dorm when you have community bathroom or you have a roommate. So your Lysol wipes, your mask, your shield, you're not touching the door. Avoid the crowds. They're saying 10 or more. I say 5 or more because you don't know where the other 5 kids have been. I mean, you really don't.
Right.
The last thing I would say is make sure that your college students, you know how nobody really eats well in college. I know I didn't. I mean, I ate fast food, I didn't exercise. I certainly didn't do vitamin C. But in the COVID kit, we want to really boost your immune system because the young kids are not immune. And we have cases of young kids who've gotten severe SARS-CoV-2 infections who did not have pre-existing conditions. So we're still learning. So ways they can boost their immune system is take their vitamin C. Obviously, fresh will be best, but if you can't, you can do the emergency. I just do the emergency. You need the vitamin C. You need the zinc. If you have symptoms, like my daughter called me last week, she has some concerns. It's not just fever. So cough, runny nose, GI symptoms. A lot of people don't realize that there is a GI, we call it a prodrome, before the respiratory. So you thought you just had a stomach virus. It actually could have been the early signs and symptoms of COVID. So a lot of people vomiting, diarrhea, nausea, extreme fatigue. College students have that anyway. They stay up all night studying. Exactly. I have friends who never got a fever who had COVID and their only symptoms were GI symptoms and fatigue. So I know when I was sick, my biggest symptom was extreme fatigue. Like really could not even get out of the bed, couldn't finish my sentences, just the malaise. So fatigue, GI symptoms. I just want to say it 2 or 3 times. GI symptoms, even if you don't have a fever. Headaches, neurologic symptoms. So obviously some of the more severe trouble breathing. The other thing in the COVID kits, if you could get your parents, if you could get this for your college students, there's something called a portable oxygen saturation monitor. It's called a pulse ox. PULSE ox.
Say that again.
PULSE space ox. So OXIMETER, pulse oximeter. So if you've ever been in the hospital, they put one of these little things on your finger. It's a red bulb, and it actually measures your oxygen. So anybody does that, that's it, Dr. Naita. So anybody who's ever been to the hospital or ER,
they put it right here, and then they be like, "Oh, your fingernails too long." That's what they.
That's right. It's the first thing they put on, you guys. It's the way how good your oxygen is, and that number should be in the high 90s. You can buy them over the counter. When COVID first came, everybody bought them all out, and you had to wait 6 months to get them. But now you can get them again, and so I actually have 2. But it's a very quick way. If you feel like I do have a cough, I do have a runny nose, I don't feel like going to sit in the ER. Slap that pulse ox on, because if your number not in the mid 90s, baby, you need to take yourself to the emergency room, because when your lungs start to fill up with fluid or you have inflammation, that oxygen number will go down. And so
you said mid 90s. You said mid 90s.
So normal should be 94 or higher, but some people who have asthma or something, they may be 90 to 92. But really, you should be 94 or higher if you're a young, healthy person in college. So 100 is normal, but a lot of people may not be 100. So
yeah, I've never been 100.
Right. So I don't want people like, oh my God, Dr. Terri said I should be 100. Oh my God. I'm like, no, I didn't do that. But if you're in the low 90s and you have any other symptoms, when you go for your COVID test, you can say, oh, my pulse ox is low and I'm having these symptoms. So in places where you're not being able to test enough. So I guess to recap for the parents, make sure your college student is, if they can, even though it's hard, developmentally it's hard, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 to be isolated. Our young people are, they're isolated, they're depressed, there's some mental fatigue, there's some post-traumatic stress. I mean, they're having to rely even more on social media, which we don't even want them on social media all the time. But if you do not have to be directly in that class, or you have your study partner and y'all both COVID negative, try to isolate if you can. But if it's something you have to be on campus for, then obviously go do your lab, do whatever you need to do. But wear your mask. Don't take off your mask just because you're in your study group. If you have a shield and it's a close proximity, wear that. If you go into the cafeteria, none of the schools should be directly serving food. Actually, the food's supposed to be prepackaged now, but pick up your food and leave. Pick up your food and leave. Do not stay and congregate. Save those group gatherings for when it's absolutely necessary, like if it's a study session or a review session, or if somebody's having a birthday and y'all trying to have a social distance, boost your immune system, and just recognize that the symptoms for COVID are more than just fever and respiratory symptoms. There's a whole separate GI batch of symptoms. There are respiratory symptoms, and then there's some neurologic symptoms like fatigue, malaise, headache. So all of those things are important. If you are positive, though, and your school is still open, try to quarantine on campus if you can. Try to not go home to your family, especially if somebody in your family is older, grandparents, great aunts, uncles, people who may have some pre-existing conditions. Because even though we've had some young people have significant problems, the majority of young people have recovered and done okay, but we have had some young people die. The majority of kids have recovered and done okay, but we have had some children that did not survive. So somebody is not necessarily that, remember, pregnancy is a pre-existing condition. So even if you have a friend or an aunt or a cousin that's pregnant, if you have been exposed, or on a campus, if you've been exposed, you really don't want to be around them. Because it increases their risk for pregnancy complications if they're COVID positive.
Wow. I'm just typing that last one, the existing condition. All right. Wow. That was a lot. A lot. Wow.
I feel bad because we want to have fun in college. I feel bad. I'm mad at the college kids because I just think it's not a realistic expectation. I want them to have some agency and make decisions, but the part of the brain that actually have to deal with consequences, it's not even fully.
It's not even developed yet. Yeah, that
we didn't even have COVID. I don't even want to talk about some of the decisions I made, but here I am.
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about that. So the last thing that I want to say before we wrap this up is I do want to talk to those students who are now shifting back to an online environment, especially to our freshmen, because across the nation, colleges have they took away the requirement for the SAT and SAT. Mm-hmm. And a lot of freshmen are in, class this semester. So what I know in the state of Florida, across the state, the community college enrollment is down 10 to 28% across the state. But the university enrollment is high, is up, and I raised the question yesterday, is it due to the fact that they took away suspended the SAT, ACT test scores? And as such, they're admitting students without, really knowing for sure,
Oh, yeah.
the previous criteria. We'll just say it
Correct.
that way.
Correct.
So with that, you have students, a lot of students who are enrolled in college classes, and they're taking 4 and 5 online classes. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. And I don't think people are truly prepared for 4 classes or 5 classes online at the college level. At the college level, Some few strategies that I wanted to make sure that, parents and young people know is that, number one, stop trying to take your online class in bed. Okay. You cannot do your coursework in bed on your laptop. Get up, get out, go to your desk, go to the common area, go to the kitchen, wherever.
Go to the mental frame of mind for class.
Get out. That's right. You have to get out. Stop trying to take your college classes in your bed. That is a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
Secondly, keep an agenda. Write down all your due dates and put them in your phone. Have backup reminders. Use the Remind app. And then form small or virtual study groups. Even though you all aren't meeting together in class, but there are other students in your class that you all can meet virtually, and you can form your study groups that way. And then a couple last things I want to, suggest is that you sign up for tutoring, whether it's on campus or if it is, virtual. Sign up for that tutoring and utilize the resources that your student health center has so that you can maintain that inner peace. Because, I know everybody doesn't want to sit down with a counselor. Okay, I get it. But most universities, most colleges are providing workshops and seminars to help you maintain this balance while you're in the midst of this COVID thing and away from home and all these classes and all that work online just multiplies. Don't get behind. Stay on top of it, and definitely talk to someone when you start feeling overwhelmed. So those were just some of the things.
I was going to say, I love your number. Oh, well, you took it away.
I'm sorry. I can put it back. There it is.
So my youngest, your nephew, as you know, is finishing up his first year of college. His school's on a quarter system, so the sophomore year will start at the end of this month. But it has been a very difficult transition for him because he doesn't do well in the virtual environment. So that was a shift, learning how to basically be a more independent study because a lot of the modules are preloaded. But I love your the sign up for the tutoring and to utilize the resources because the teacher's not there present, he didn't always take advantage of the office hours, but the teacher had office hours. You just had to email your questions, and that was something he had to learn to do. So I just would echo, at least, especially for those of us who have children who learn differently, who require some accommodations, and then being thrust in this online learning. That was a very difficult transition, and actually the 4 classes per quarter ended up being too much for us. So you are right, Dr. Naita, we had to adjust that, but just taking advantage of the resources that are in place. And to the college students that are out there, her last Dr. Naita's last sentence: talk to someone when you're feeling overwhelmed. Your parents are overwhelmed. Your life
I'm going to tell you.
You do not have to figure it all out because this is new for all of us. But there has been a surge of mental health services, online telehealth services, telemental health services, many geared toward young adults. So if you are stressed, please reach out because there are a lot of online services, and you can. There are a lot of apps too where you can find a therapist immediately who you can kind of process some of these things with. So use your school, but for those of you who you feel like you want some more privacy, you can use those resources as well, because we're all overwhelmed with this new normal. And actually, we don't want it to be normal, but unfortunately, it's looking like it's going to be normal for a minute now. So I'm just trying to look forward to 2021 at this point. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, with that, do you have any last minute comments or anything?
I don't. Everybody be safe. Wear your mask. Even during the holidays, keep your mask on. Get a shield. Be
All
safe.
right.
Be safe.
Would you like to
And have a good
represent?
school year. And
Would
parents,
you
you're gonna
like to
be okay.
represent? I'm sorry. Go
Oh, what
ahead.
you say?
Would you like to represent the greatest sorority that?
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, any sorors out there? Any soror parents, soror students? What's up? Yeah, I know Delta's we rise to the challenge, so it's gonna be okay. I know I'm sitting in a pink room right now, but it's crimson and cream all the way.
So it was red, but it had a little cream in it that made it.
Exactly.
Exactly. All right. Well, Miss Terri, Dr. Terri Major-Kincade, I love you. I appreciate you. And I thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart for joining us. And we will see this. I will be posting it and it'll be on YouTube and all that good stuff. But I appreciate you. I love you. Tell Steve I said hello. And we, Steve and I, we both sit out on our patio and
yeah, out there right now.
Yeah. I won't be going out there tonight, but I'll probably hit them up sometime this weekend.
All right, cool. Well, we have to check in at the end of the year, see how we did with the pandemic, see how many schools stayed open, and how did we fare at the schools figured out what to do.
Okay, we will do that. All right. Thank you. I love you.
Have a good evening.